So I think we can all agree that playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Can be a lot of fun, except when it begins to endanger your health. And no, I'm not talking about toxic meta decks like Kashtira or Pirelli. I'm talking about the Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel Duelist Cup event that took place in the past week, and why it's been causing a bit of a controversy in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community because it could be potentially endangering players' health. And no, that's not hyperbole. But first, you might be wondering, what is the Duelist Cup? Well, it is this event in Master Duel that takes place every couple of months, and it occurs in two stages. So the first stage is 2 weeks long, as you guys can see, and then the second stage is the last 3 days of that 2-week period. The first stage is simple enough. You queue up, and as you win duels, your duel level will increase, and your goal is to get to duel level 20. Once you reach duel level 20, you will be able to play in the second stage of this event. And so in the second stage, you get DP, or duel points, I suppose is what it is called. Yeah, if you win, you'll get duel points. If you lose, you'll lose some of your duel points. And at the end of the entire event, everybody will be ranked, and you'll get these season points for getting in the top 100. And these all count towards getting, invited to the Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship. If you get first place, then you just get a finals invitation. It's really cool, and you can actually take a look after the event at where everybody ranked. So you can see, who got top 100, how many points they had. And even for more casual players who aren't necessarily aiming to go to the World Championships, there are still a lot of gems and titles and other cool things that you can get just by playing. All right, simple enough. So you're probably wondering, what's the issue here? Well, the issue is that the last stage of the event, those 3 days, are a complete and utter slog and kind of just a battle, right? So for 72 hours, you're aiming to get points, and that means that you are incentivized to play as much as possible because it's strictly amount of points earned. So the system favors quantity over quality. Your goal would be to just play as many duels as you can and win as many duels as you can. And if you stop playing, then that gives the opportunity for other people who are playing to pass you up in points. So what ends up happening a lot is that we see players playing, oftentimes streaming their experiences, for the full 72 hours or as much of it as they possibly can get. And that is where some of the controversy takes place. So a lot of people want to obviously win in Master Duel, and so they want to be able to get on the stage and have an experience like this. This was the World Championships in Japan. I was actually there as a spectator, not as a player. But yeah, I got to meet these 3 guys. They won in Master Duel. Super awesome moment. You get to see your favorite players on the big stage. It's a team event. It's very fun. And nobody would not want to be here, right? Like, if you like Yu-Gi-Oh! And I like Yu-Gi-Oh! I play Master Duel all the time. I don't really compete in the Duelist Cup per se, but this is a really cool thing to get. However, here's where the trouble comes in. People don't like the system because you have to play for effectively the full 72 hours if you want to win. Otherwise, if you don't, then someone's just going to pass you in points. And so people were kind of mentioning this in their feedback that you can leave after the event. And a lot of people were also talking about it on Twitter. First of all, I want to just quickly congratulate some of the players who did really well. Ryan Yu, big fan of his. He played Labyrinth, got 3rd place globally and 1st in North America. And also this player Greed, who is actually from South Korea, got 1st place. So congrats to them. Not to say anything against them, but the system itself is probably what's broken here. Simo actually made a really good tweet that I agree with. He says, "I don't compete in Master Duel's Duelist Cup, neither do I, and I don't want to devalue the achievements of those who do. But surely there exists a better system than having players grind Master Duel for every waking second until they collapse from physical and mental exhaustion." And I agree with him. I also saw this tweet from Nesh TCG. They were streaming their gameplay, and they eventually just kind of gave up. They said, "This is my final score. The max reach was 52K. I hate every second of this, so I stopped streaming it. It's such a terrible competition, and I would suggest to change this format and just open ranked for 8 hours per day instead of the full 72 hours. And if you're thinking that this is probably just drama, no, there were actually stories of people who were just playing to the point of exhaustion in order to win this event. It's kind of strange to me that it's condensed into just 3 days and that there's not a different system like maybe a bracket or some sort of an invitational or something better. So I wanted to see what other people had to say about it, and here's what Distant Coder, he streams Master Duel, here are his thoughts.
I can assure you there is no one that grinded the Duelist Cup and was remotely close to being in 1st place that found that shit fun. The fact that you need to sacrifice your mental and physical health in order to grind this is fucking ridiculous, man. It's disgusting. No other game does this. No other.
Yeah, so there's that. I mean, I gotta say, I agree with him because the thing is, you're asking a lot out of players. It means that any time that you could maybe go and get a meal or go to the bathroom even or go to sleep, you would be better served dueling. And I think that that's just, there's something that doesn't really sit right about that with me. Here's what Farfa had to say. He had a bit of a different opinion because he feels that, well, it's a tough commitment, but that if you're really good, you can get ahead of the competition. So here's what he said.
It's a real, like, you know, it's a real investment of your psyche, your mental, your time. But overall, for me personally, even as someone who didn't have a very prestigious goal in mind, I had a great time, personally. I had a great time. Only sleeping 12 hours in 3 days isn't bad. Well, again, if you look at some of the prime examples, why Task is the best player in the world, that guy did not need to play. The guy took an entire day off. Like, so sometimes the reality is if you're very good, you just need to just be better. It really is that simple.
Yes, so why do you guys think Konami does this and what could be some solutions to improve it? Well, first of all, I think that there's probably two reasons why Konami does this. The first one being, this is what they did in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. Apparently the Kaiba Corp World Cup thing that they've had in Duel Links for years has worked the same way. Two-stage system, 3 days or 72 hours to just grind against everybody for points and qualify for Worlds that way, and nobody complained, at least not much about it that I heard, about that system. I mean, it might have been a little bit abusive on people's health, but, you know, whatever, they dealt with it. So they're doing the same thing for Master Duel. If it worked there, it'll work here. I think the difference being that Master Duel is a little bit more mainstream than Duel Links was, and so a lot more people are seeing this system in action and having something to say about it. And I also think that for Konami, there is a bit of a benefit in having so many players play so often. It means that your active playtime hours are going to be extremely inflated during this period of time, and that's pretty good for business for them, right? Like, you can, you know, point to your game, point to this and say like, hey, people are really engaged with like Master Duel right now. They're playing a lot. They can't stop playing. They can't get enough. And I'm not saying that Konami has bad intentions in doing this. I mean, it's a system, it works, and it certainly is one way of seeing who the best player is. I mean, I think that if you consider how many games are actually happening, just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games, then it even does a pretty good job, I would think, in kind of cutting down variance. The thing is, though, Master Duel does have a very high stress sort of system. You get best of one games, the coin flip means a lot. Sometimes losing a few coin flips in a row can cause your entire record to just sort of snowball downhill, and that's not always fun. But what are the alternatives? What could they possibly do instead? Well, I wanted to see what other people had to say about it on Reddit. So, somebody was saying, yeah, it's either going to get someone unalived or incentivize people to take shifts playing. This is something that I've heard some players have tried to do. I don't know if it's against the rules, so like, don't take my word for it. But like, imagine, you know, hey, like if I want to go to sleep, I can have my friend play for me instead. And I don't think that's really in the spirit of kind of like a competition like this, so that's not really cool. But if you know if you stand to lose by simply not staying up and playing, I see why a player might start thinking that that could be a thing to do instead. Some people are saying that it just could be like a marketing thing. Apparently this does happen in a few other games. Somebody actually mentioned that this happens Guild Wars and Grand Blue Fantasy. I don't know too much about that game. But yeah, what most people seem to suggest is that they should limit the number of games that you can play or the number of times that you can queue up during the day. And this has some ups and it's got some downs, right? Like, I think that if you could queue for only a certain amount of games or a certain amount of hours, it'd probably be the best solution, but it would mean that if you queue at different times, you might get a slightly different experience. Or if they allowed you to only queue for 8 hours in the day, then different time zones might find themselves sort of benefited by this. So like if you play at nighttime, you might encounter fewer players, or, you know, if you play at what is daytime for you, but nighttime for like America, let's say, then you'll get a vastly different experience. Still, I think this would be good because I feel like players should be limited in how much they feel they have to queue up and play this game, because nobody should be forced to play Yu-Gi-Oh! For every waking moment of every single day. I love Master Duel as much as the next guy. Like I said, I grind this game just on the ladder a lot each day. I put in a few hours. But the thing is, this is different. This is an entirely different level of what it's actually asking of players. And I remember when the Duelist Cup first started, and I was kind of apprehensive about the way that they handled this. I mean, it's a bit strange because it, A, favors quantity over quality, I would say, on average. And even for just a casual player, even if you're not like aiming to get the spot at Worlds, and you just want to get the gems and kind of the achievements for doing that, it's pretty rough. I mean, like I said, Master Duel, it's coin flippy. The meta decks are out in full force. That's kind of a different issue though. But the main thing I want to focus on is, what could Konami do instead? Could they do an invitational? Could they expand the amount of time that you can play this, and then that way they can maybe better limit the days? Or should they even perhaps contract the amount of time that the Duelist Cup lasts, where instead of being 72 hours, it's only 24 hours? And that way, even though people are scrambling and staying awake all the time to get their points, at least they don't have to do it for 3 days long. I still don't know if that's like great. I mean, also this whole thing sort of excludes normal people who just have regular jobs and simply can't like play all the time. If you have to work a 9 to 5, then that means that you're not going to be at your computer playing Master Duel. So yeah, it's just something that I thought was kind of interesting because it does feel like it's a little bit dangerous and a little bit unhealthy. And again, I don't want to say that Konami is telling you that you actually just cannot do anything else. Rather, it's something that if you're a player and this means a lot to you, it's kind of the natural inclination anyway. And that is where I feel like something probably needs to be done. And I hope that going forward, they can look at this system and find some sort of a small way to improve it. They've actually announced that the next Master Duel Duelist Cup is going to be in December, which feels awfully soon after so many people are kind of burnt from the last one. So I don't see any like changes happening then. It's too soon for them to really implement anything. But I do hope that maybe next year, maybe next time, they can do something that's a little bit better and kind of takes players' health into account a bit more. So let me know down in the comments, what do you guys think? Do you feel like this is something that, is a problem? Am I maybe just making mountains out of molehills? Is this just a way of kind of testing people's grit and stamina and it's the best way to do it? Or is there something better? I don't know. Let me know down in the comments and I will see you guys in the next one. Pass turn.